imagine you're about to go into space. You're coming down the entrance road to the terminal hangar facility that you see here before you, where we entered off of AO13, the county road, where we turned onto this beautifully paved road. Wasn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Yes. That is part of the Spaceport property. This is 18,000 acres of state land office, state trust land that the New Mexico Spaceport Authority has leased for 99 years. And this is the first phase of development on the property. We coexist with two working cattle ranches. You saw one on your left as we came in, that was the Bar Cross Ranch. And then there's one towards the southern end of the property, and that is the Lewis Cane Ranch. And they still run about 1,000 head of cattle here, and so you're going to have rockets and livestock coexisting, and it's really kind of a unique environment. And one of the principal things that we can start heading that way that we've tried to incorporate into this project is sensitivity and a respect for the natural and cultural environment here. And because of the El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro National Historic Trail that we coincidentally crossed as we turned into the Spaceport property, and because of the sort of the beautiful natural landscape here, we wanted to make sure that the facilities we built were as considerate and conspicuous, if you might say, as possible. And we put a lot of work into the design to make it blend, to hide things when viewed from the west, when viewed from the trail. And I think you'll see, when we get some good profile shots from the side here, that this facility in particular achieves these things quite well. We'll stop right up here and I'll talk a little bit about what you can see. And I'm probably standing in the way of your view, so I'll get out of the way here. We're going to take a left, but just hang on tight for a second. So what you can see here in front of you is what we call the THF. In aerospace, we love acronyms. So Terminal Hangar Facility, and that's because the building is a terminal and a hangar. Yes, exactly. And from the west, you can see there's these built-up earth mounds. We call them earth berms. And you can see there's this channel cut into the middle of them, held back by cast-in-place concrete. And the idea is to mimic a natural earth berm. And they're still working on the south and the north side so that it kind of reduces some of that shoulder effect of the actual lobes of the hangar. But the idea here is that the customers for Virgin Galactic, and I might add that this facility is not owned by Virgin Galactic. This is owned by the state. This is a public owned building that is leased to Virgin Galactic. And also, stepping larger, the Spaceport is owned by the state. It is not owned by Virgin Galactic. It is not owned by Richard Branson. This is your Spaceport. Congratulations. And just like any other, transportation infrastructure, like an airport, it's a public-built facility in order to attract private tenants to create jobs and drive economic development. But so, as the customers of Virgin Galactic come down, they enter this way and stop at a roundabout, get off, and they feel this very primitive earthen natural environment. And as they enter the channel, it begins this transition from the old to the new and the future. And so it's this very emotional, very, I would say, awesome experience that they're trying to create, where it's really going to play with their senses and really celebrate the mystery of spaceflight. That's the idea. This facility is designed by URS and Foster and Partners, located in Albuquerque and London. They won an international design competition to develop this, and it's being built by a whole array of contractors. General contractors, Summit West, registered in Albuquerque, and a whole number of subs from all over the state and the country. We're going to take a left here. One of the things that's unique about this facility, we'll talk more about it as we go all around it, is some of the sustainability features of it. I mentioned harmony with the natural landscape, but also harmony in terms of energy usage. Go slow here. You can see on the side, see those holes there on the side of the wall there? Those are entrances to one of the environmental features called an earth tube labyrinth. And that is a passive heating and cooling system. It works like a heat exchanger, whereby the ambient air outside, say in the summer is warm, draws in the air into the earth tubes, cools it down using the natural heat sink of the earth, and draws it into the HVAC system at a lower temperature so you don't have to use as much electricity to cool it down. In the winter, when the ambient air is colder, to draw in the colder air, you warm it up using the heat sink of the earth, draw it into the HVAC system, you don't have to use as much energy to heat up the air. So it reduces energy usage by about 60 to 70% over a similar sized building, which is kind of impressive. So that's just one feature, and you can kind of see a little bit where the slope of the facility helps to blend it into the landscape. And we'll come around and you can see that a little better for those of you on the left side of the bus. We're going to take a tour of maybe one of the more mundane areas of the spaceport. I know you're excited. But coming up on your right, this is the Spaceport Operations Center. We'll go by that a little closer. That's going to be kind of the headquarters for a lot of the contractor operations, emergency response, maintenance, this kind of activity. And just north of that is two local landmarks named after one of my coworkers. This is actually the 300,000 cubic yards of earth excavated from the runway, the airfield. And the rubble that you see beside it is actually concrete that was removed from the runway because it did not meet specification. They do testing on a constant basis, and they pull it out and re-pour it. And fortunately, we can go left here. Fortunately, all that concrete is going to be reused, reground, and used for the pour on the terminal hangar facility floor. So what we're coming into here, as I mentioned, kind of the utility backbone of the spaceport. Up ahead on your sort of to your left and to the front is the water storage facility, and that is a 1.3 million gallon water tank with a booster pump house with 4 ginormous pumps that we're going to stop here for a second. And actually, yeah, you can kind of just slowly go that way. It's sized in order to be able to handle 2 simultaneous fire events or other events requiring large quantities of water. So if there were an accident on the airfield and a fire in one of the buildings, at the same time you can handle both. And there's a network of fire hydrants all over the place, and we can address emergency response and fire situations with it. The water is sourced from a well field in the southern part of the property. There's 4 active wells and produce about 100 gallons a minute, and it's in a separate aquifer that does not impact the rest of the ranching community. We've done hydrological studies that indicated this is an isolated basin, and it is servicing the water needs for the facility going out over the foreseeable horizon. Yes, absolutely. One of the mitigation measures that so the question was, are we providing water to wildlife? As Chris Anderson mentioned in her presentation the other day, one of the things that we're trying to do is reduce the impact on the environment here and on our neighbors. What you can do is go to the right here. And one of the ways that we've done that, because we've fenced off a whole bunch of area here, maybe about 900 acres, we've taken that land out of production. and we do compensatory mitigations, what they call it, in order to ensure that there is not only enough good grazing land for those displaced livestock, but also for the natural wildlife that exists in this area. So what we've just passed here on the left was the fuel storage area. Come back here in a year or so and you'd be very close to things that could explode. Yeah, I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek here. What you see here is a 20,000 gallon for Jet A, this is jet fuel. And then there's also liter capability for gasoline and diesel. And this is one of the things that the Spaceport is going to do, is provide fuel for its tenants' benign fuels, but the tenants themselves will deal with the exotics. We're not going to be taking care of, state employees are not going to be managing nitrous oxide, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, these kinds of things that you need folks with, folks with special certifications and whatnot in order to be able to manage the rocket fuel, so to speak. So this is because it is rocket science, exactly. So one thing you notice, there are these solar light poles here all over the area. They are designed such that the ambient light is minimized at night so that we can meet dark sky requirements and not disturb. We're not trying to build LAX out here in the desert. We don't want this to be a beacon that people can see from miles around. We were actually trying to be, we're trying to minimize the impact on the view shed. And one thing you might recall as we're driving in, you probably didn't even see this water tank. And that's because just to the west of it is a natural earth berm that hides it completely. And that's on purpose. So, again, we're trying to be in harmony with the natural setting here. The terminal hangar facility is actually going to be certified LEED Gold. It's Leadership Energy Environmental Design by the U.S. Green Buildings Council. And that is a very prestigious kind of certification. We will be the only, well, it's not really an airport terminal, but only facility of its kind that will have that certification.
The only facility. Spaceport suite.
So Mark mentioned the orange fences that you may have seen in a couple places. These were up during the height of construction to alert construction personnel not to trespass around within a certain radius of cultural sites. And as Chris mentioned, there are 22 sites that we've determined where there are features here within the vicinity of the horizontal launch area. And this is everything from historical to prehistorical human habitation. Just on your right, we're going to kind of be coming by a site that dates back to 12,000 years, Paleo-Archaic Indians, and a cooking area that shows a lot of evidence of human habitation and communal gathering. So we want to make sure that we keep the big trucks as far away from the cultural resources as possible. We're going to turn left here. We're going to come up to the SOC, Spaceport Operations Center. And this is formally and affectionately once known as the ARF, now the Spaceport Operations Center. That is a very unique building. You can see it's rather dome-like. That is because it was a dome during construction. construction. And the way that this was constructed was really quite fascinating. We got the world's best dome architect and construction engineers on this project. And actually, unfortunately, these were the only general contractors on the project that were not New Mexico based, not New Mexico registered. Out of 14 major contracts, one of them went to a company out of Idaho, and that's because they're the best dome folks around. And if you want to slow down here for a sec. Basically what happened, they designed the facility as a large 18,000 square foot dome. They designed it on a computer, and they sew basically a waterproof membrane about 3 millimeters thick into a balloon. And they pour a circular foundation, and they tie the balloon in place on top of the foundation. And then they hook it up to a fan, and they inflate the dome. They inflate the balloon on top of the foundation. They crawl inside of it, and then they spray concrete on the inside, around and around and around, until starting at the bottom, going all the way to the top, and they reinforce it with rebar and other strengtheners. And then the actual balloon becomes the waterproofing of the roof. It remains, and you can see the thickness of the concrete is wider at the bottom than it is at the top. You can kind of see that. And what we did then was put a tile finish, and you might say, interesting, that looks like my bathroom or my kitchen. But because it's very similar. And you know, getting up close, you say that's very familiar, but from far away, it actually helps the facility blend rather nicely into the desert. And again, being smart about finishes and being cost-effective, this dome structures, because of their natural stability, are very cost-effective. So we've got it's going to be a great facility, and it's also a great deal. So they're working on that now. They've got everything protected from the weather right now, but this is going to be a glass facade, sort of similar to the design of the terminal hangar facility. So we can keep moving here. It actually costs less to build a dome than a regular conventional building. And you can see, we call that the eyebrow there. And so the south half of the building is where the administrative offices will be. The north half is where the ARF trucks, the Aircraft Rescue Firefighting Facility trucks, will be. EMS, rescue maintenance, that kind of thing. This is designed by Dome Technology and built by Bateman Hall. Out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. So we're coming up to the world's first spaceway, and I'll just look left and right here before we cross. Make sure, you know.
Those spaceships are coming down.
Take a left here. Yep. So, when was the last time you drove on a runway like this? So this is, it's 200 feet wide, it's 10,000 feet long, and isn't this smooth? Isn't this nice? Pretty nice. So, and it is, it's a 42-inch thick cross section, so it's almost 4 feet thick, and it's built to handle nearly, well, actually not nearly, it can handle any aircraft operating in the world today. And you could handle anything operating in the world today. We wouldn't take the shuttle here because of the orientation rather than the length. But what this is here is a turnaround loop. So we have a single runway, and vehicles will taxi out on the runway, come around the turnaround loop, and then take off in whichever direction. This is the 1-6 end of the runway. That's the 3-4 end of the runway, and that has to do with the orientation. It's nearly north-south. You can see there's this big red X on there, and that tells pilots don't land here. Because you know that there's been a lot of folks who wanted to bring their Cessna 172s and whatnot out here. You better believe it. So this is, again, the northern end, and you can see, again, kind of put it in perspective, the pile of earth removed in order to build this. And so it's a 24-inch prepared subgrade. There's a 6-inch layer of cement soil mix. On top of that, a 4-inch layer of asphalt. On top of that, 14-inch layer of Portland cement concrete. And this was all sourced using local aggregates, which is really pretty incredible. There's a hill, Kaiser Hill, about 5 miles to the south of us, and you can actually kind of see it over that direction. There's a little water tank on top, a little bump there. That's Kaiser Hill. That's by the vertical launch area. That's where the aggregate, the gravel that we're driving on right now, was sourced. So that reduces the amount of truck traffic, the amount of dust, the amount of fuel used. It's very ecologically sensitive kind of construction practice. It's also state land. And so this is what 10,000 feet looks like. You can barely see the other end. And please fasten your tray tables, put your seats that are locked in upright position.
Punch it.
Yeah. This one don't fly.
And, so what we're coming up to, of course, is the terminal hangar facility from the east side now. Keep going. So again, this is the taxiway to the SOC. Yep, great. And you can actually see, there's one of the tire treads from White Knight 2 when they landed back in October. Just passed us by.
The White Knight. This is the big vehicle that takes the run.
Oh, yeah. Because it did 355. I think we're standing over there and it's over us from behind the building.
Well, it's possible. Right now it's not programmed in. But yes, that is definitely a possibility. You can see the asphalt batch plant right there. That's on site. Again, we batch our own road and concrete materials right on site. Sourced locally using recycled road tailings and recycled motor oil from the Hatch DOT yard. And this is Taxiway Victor, V for Virgin. And this is, again, one of what we hope to be many development sites, many hangars lining the flight line here. So this is not going to be the Virgin show forever. That's what gets the headlines, but we want this to be a multi-tenant facility. So going north and going south, we intend to have a variety of customers. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll get out, we'll stop right here, and then we'll be able to take pictures. Now, what's important is that folks remember, since we do not have hard hats and vests, we can't go inside, and in fact, we need to stay. So do you kind of see this grate here?
Yep.
There's a drainage grate between the apron, which is this circular sea of concrete, and the taxiway. There's a drainage grate. We need to not go past the drainage grate for now. So these folks are working, and we can't interfere with their progress. So we'll come on out, and I can talk a little bit more about it outside.